Hello bandits! Thanks to the folks at Focus Entertainment and Deck 13, we've been taking a look at their sandy new third-person action adventure as we delve into Atlas Fallen. You begin your adventure in Atlas Fallen in the shoes of an unnamed. These slave-like people are being led through a vast desert surrounded by dangerous creatures. Shackled by the followers of a corrupted god, you'll soon discover an ancient power and rise from the sand to liberate mankind in this large-scale world. You'll face off against colossal creatures as you traverse the sands and use a combination of aerial and ground attacks in fluid combat. As an unnamed, you'll use parries to your advantage, freezing enemies using your sand skin to gain strategic bonuses in combat. You'll also build momentum, using this to unlock advanced abilities to do significant damage using your shatter attack. Atlas Fallen is playable solo, but you can also team up with a friend to fight for humanity in a cooperative story campaign. Doing this will scale enemies to provide a challenge, and you'll have to work together to overcome the dangers of the lands around you. Atlas Fallen is rated by PEGI at 12 and above and by the ESRB as T for teen. There is a lot of violence in this one, however, rather than a huge amount of blood you'll find sand instead. There is still a little blood and some bad language in here, and while it's certainly not as bad as it could be, we are giving it a rating of notable concern. This is mostly based on the violent content, oppressive themes, and of course online play. In terms of accessibility, there are varied difficulty modes, which is nice, but the accessibility menu itself is quite lacking. This, paired with constant controller combinations and quick action needed in fights, mean that Atlas Fallen is scoring an accessibility rating of tricky. And with that stacked up, onto the rundown, our 5-point rating for Atlas Fallen. Gameplay 3. I really enjoyed the combat in the early portion of the game, and sand surfing is a really nice and speedy way of getting around the place. The title has also brought good progression with new gauntlet abilities. Sadly, while the combat does work well most of the time, it gets very repetitive early on, and you'll mostly be performing the same fetch and fight quests for most of the game. Visuals 4. The visuals in Atlas Fallen are genuinely quite nice and work well pretty much all of the time. The far-reaching views across the desert are well made and have made an immersive land really come to life. Visuals are probably the saving grace of the title, with some well-designed enemies, though camera angles do sometimes let the side down. Audio 2. The effects and the music in-game are decent enough, but the voice acting in Atlas Fallen is some of the worst we've heard in recent years. Scripts seem disjointed and spoken tone is completely wayward most of the time, meaning that it's more fun to skip through conversations than actually listen to them. Narrative 3. The premise of Atlas Fallen begins well, and there are some highlights here and there. Sadly, however, the narrative does feel rushed and doesn't fully respect a good and solid lore base which has been created. The notes you'll find on the past and information on lost civilizations is nice, but in the here and now, character narrative is not given the time it needs to properly develop. Replay 3. The cooperative mode definitely helps here, as does a good amount of lore items and legendary creatures to find among the sands of the desert. Sadly, because the combat gets repetitive quite fast, we've not felt drawn back in quite as much as we could, as each fight and mission is mostly like the last. Overall, our I hate sand level for Atlas Fallen is a very average 6 out of 10. This one has some really bright spots and some great ideas. The momentum system is really promising, and the world and lore are great. They have been let down by repetitive combat and enemies, atrocious voice acting, and a story which really doesn't hold itself together. Visuals in the title are wonderful, and there are some great concepts which are worth dipping in for, meaning that it's scoring on just about the good side of average. This might be one to pick up in future potentially, but it's certainly not one to rush out for right away. As ever, to provide our review and common sense parents guide, we received 3 copies of Atlas Fallen from the folks at Focus Entertainment. And that's all we've got for you today. Check out the extended review at pixelbandits.org for more information on this one. If you found this helpful, a like, comment, share or follow might not cost you anything, but it really goes a long way to helping Pixel Bandits remain ad-free and independent. Either way, we hope to see you again very soon. Thanks for watching.